Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm excited to introduce our topic, the invisible force shaping our world. We'll be exploring what culture really is and how it influences everything around us. Over the next few slides, we'll uncover the ways this unseen force impacts our lives, our societies, and our perceptions. So, let's dive in and start this fascinating journey together. When we talk about culture, we're referring to the shared lens through which a group understands reality. It's how they make decisions and assign meaning to actions and objects. Think of it as a collective perspective that shapes everyday life. Geert Hofstede famously called it the collective programming of the mind. That might sound a bit technical, but it really means that culture is like an operating system, deep, ingrained, and guiding how people see and interpret the world around them. Culture isn't just about art, food, or traditions, although those are parts of it. It's really the entire fabric of shared human experience, accumulated knowledge, beliefs, values, attitudes, meanings, and even material objects that a group gathers over generations. So, when we think about what culture truly is, it's important to see it as the total sum of what a group has learned and shared, influencing their behavior and perceptions in profound ways. This understanding is crucial as we explore how culture impacts decision-making and interaction in different settings. Let's take a closer look at the core components of culture. First, we have symbols, which include objects, gestures, or words that carry specific meanings. Think about flags, logos, rituals, or even language. They all serve as symbols that communicate ideas and values without words. Next, there are customs and norms. These are accepted ways of behaving and unwritten social rules that guide our everyday interactions, helping us know what's expected in different situations. Then we come to beliefs. These are our convictions about how the world works and what reality is like. They shape our expectations and influence how we interpret events around us. Moving on, beliefs are complemented by values, which are deeply held ideas about what is good, right, and desirable. Values act as a moral compass, guiding our decisions and actions at a fundamental level. Finally, it's important to recognize that culture isn't just one single idea. It's a layered system of interconnected elements, symbols, customs, beliefs, and values that work together to shape how people think, how they relate to each other, and how they act. Understanding this interconnectedness helps us see the full picture of what culture truly is and how it influences every aspect of our lives. Over time, we naturally internalize which behaviors, emotions, and expressions are appropriate depending on the context we find ourselves in. It's almost automatic. Often we're not even aware that this process is happening. This is how culture becomes second nature to us. It's important to remember that we're not born with culture. We absorb it from our surroundings. This ongoing process, called enculturation, is how we learn the norms, values, and behaviors of our culture. We learn both directly, through instruction, and indirectly, by observing others. Think about how parents, caregivers, teachers, peers, and various institutions all play a role in shaping what we consider acceptable and expected. This isn't something we're born with. It's something we acquire throughout our lives. So the key takeaway here is that culture is learned, not innate. It's a continuous process of acquiring the shared ways of thinking and behaving that define our social groups. Understanding this helps us see how culture influences our identity and interactions, and it ties into the larger theme of how deeply intertwined our individual identities are with the cultures we grow up in. These shared patterns are not static, meaning they don't stay the same over time. Instead, they build and evolve across generations. Each new layer adds more depth and richness to the cultural identity of a group or organization. It's like layering brushstrokes to create a more vibrant picture. When we talk about cumulative growth, we're emphasizing that culture emerges from people consistently sharing their knowledge, skills, and practices within their communities and networks. This sharing creates what we call a social toolkit, a common set of resources and understandings that everyone can draw upon. This is the power of shared knowledge. It's what enables groups to function smoothly and develop over time. And it's closely linked to shared behavior, which is how these shared patterns manifest in everyday actions. So ultimately, what we're seeing is that culture isn't static. It's a dynamic, living thing that grows richer as it's passed down and expanded through ongoing shared experiences. This idea ties back to the overall theme of how cultural patterns shape organization and community identity. A strong culture acts as a powerful magnet. It naturally attracts the best people who are looking for environments where they can truly thrive, feel like they belong, and make meaningful contributions. When we have a shared culture, it creates unity and cohesion among team members. This shared sense of purpose helps turn individual contributors into a coordinated force, driving unified action towards common goals. It's important to remember that culture isn't just a soft or superficial concern. In fact, it's one of the most powerful levers leaders have when it comes to building high-performing organizations. A strong culture directly impacts performance, engagement, and overall success. So, why does culture matter? Because it provides a strategic advantage. It aligns your team, boosts motivation, and creates a foundation for sustained excellence. When you focus on cultivating a compelling culture, you're not just shaping the environment, you're shaping the future of your organization. A culture that truly celebrates learning and experimentation doesn't just tolerate innovation. It actively produces it on a consistent basis. This approach gives organizations a measurable and durable competitive edge that's hard to beat. When values and expectations are clear and well-defined, ambiguity simply disappears. This clarity empowers employees to work with confidence, speed, and creativity because they know exactly what good looks like. As a result, we see a strong link between a solid culture and increased performance. Companies with such cultures tend to outperform their peers by around 20% on key business metrics. This performance uplift isn't just a number. It reflects a real, tangible advantage that stems from fostering an environment where learning and innovation thrive. It's about creating a space where everyone knows their role, understands the goals, and is motivated to push boundaries while feeling supported. And that, in turn, drives productivity and continuous innovation across the organization. Let's talk about companies built around the customer. These organizations embed empathy and responsiveness into every role, from product design to customer support. The key idea here is that every decision they make starts with the customer's experience in mind, ensuring that their needs and perspectives are at the forefront. Moving on to an organization's culture, those that prioritize innovation actively celebrate risk-taking. They reward creative thinking and see failure not as a setback, but as a valuable learning opportunity. This approach actually fuels breakthroughs at every level of the organization, encouraging everyone to push boundaries and try new things. But of course, abstract values only matter if they are reflected in daily behaviors. A strong culture becomes real and impactful when it shows up in how people act every day. That's what we mean by culture in action, the real-world impact of these values when they are fully operational and lived out by everyone in the organization. So, in summary, a customer-centric approach combined with an innovation-first mindset and a culture that truly embodies these values is what drives meaningful progress and success. When these elements come together, they create a powerful environment for growth and transformation. Let's talk about the importance of modeling and communicating consistently. When leaders reinforce core values and norms, they create a stable foundation that guides behavior and decision-making across the organization. It's crucial to understand that culture isn't fixed. It evolves through feedback and leadership influence. As leaders, we need to actively define what our core values are and establish the norms we want to uphold. Understanding and actively shaping culture is one of the most high-leverage activities a leader can undertake. When we do this well, we model the values we want others to adopt, reinforce the norms that support our goals, and guide the organization through change. Ignoring culture doesn't mean it stays static. On the contrary, it simply means someone else is shaping it for us, often without our intentional influence. Remember, culture isn't carved in stone. It's a living, breathing system that responds dynamically to our leadership behaviors, communication styles, and the challenges we face. That's why adaptability is so vital. being able to evolve the culture as needed ensures the organization remains resilient and aligned with its purpose. So to thrive, leaders must be intentional in shaping culture, defining core values, establishing norms, and continuously adapting in response to feedback. By doing so, we create a workplace environment that is not only aligned with our vision, but also agile enough to navigate whatever changes come our way. A well-defined culture strategy acts as the critical bridge that connects your core values to your most ambitious strategic goals. When strategy directly influences culture, it ensures that everyone in the organization is aligned and working toward the same vision. Think of it as a pathway that guides behaviors and decisions in a consistent direction. Now, as we look at the flow from strategy to culture, it's important to remember that consistent behaviors, when practiced over time, don't just happen, they compound. These behaviors, repeated day after day, build the performance, foster innovation, and cultivate loyalty. And it's this ongoing process that ultimately defines lasting success. Moving from behavior to results, culture plays a vital role in translating abstract beliefs into everyday actions. These actions become recognizable across the organization, creating a shared identity. When values influence behavior, they shape how decisions are made, how people interact, and how work gets done. And at the core of all this, culture is like an invisible thread running through every meeting, every decision, every hire, and every product. It's quietly shaping your organization's identity from the inside out, often in ways that aren't immediately visible but are deeply impactful. Ultimately, culture is the heartbeat of your organization. It's what keeps everything connected, aligned, and moving forward. A strong, intentional culture ensures that your values are more than words. They become a living, breathing part of your everyday work and your long-term success.